When you think of this pirate flag, who do you think of? You're probably just like me, thinking John Calico Jack Rackham. Yep. See, this guy right here was the pirate that flew this flag. And I've got to admit, he was a frickin' genius. You see, in his early days of pirating, he sailed alongside a man called Captain Charles Vane as his second in command. Now around this time, Vane was considered one of the cruelest pirates out there. And at the same time, England was trying to find a way to rid themselves of these pirates. Their solution? A pardon. So basically, what they would say is, hey, if you stop your pirate career, then we'll give you a pardon, and then you can go off and retire or do something else. And let's just say some of the pirates didn't want to accept this pardon. And this is also true for Jack and Vane, because when they were offered a pardon, they just straight up denied it. Why they did this? They wanted to keep true to the pirate and rebel name, for some reason. Unfortunately, what Vane didn't know is that he should have taken this pardon, because in 1718, Captain Vane came across a well-armed French frigate, and his first decision was to dip. Now, his crew really didn't like this, so they charged him with cowardice, and then they did what any other logical pirate would do, and that was to ditch him on another boat. See, with Vane being gone, that led Jack Rackham to become the new captain because he was second in command. Now, quick little pause here. If you ever heard of the name the Jolly Roger, then you'd probably think it was like the ship that Jack had sailed on. But no, apparently it's the flag. This flag. That flag is called the Jolly Roger. I thought it was a ship, I don't know about you, but Anyway. Now, after all of this, Jack continued on, usually raiding small vessels or merchant ships, until one day he was able to grab one of the biggest prizes of his career. A large Jamaican vessel called the Kingston. He wasted no time into fighting the ship, but unfortunately this fight happened right in front of Port Royal, which was filled with government officials. This fight angered the whole town, so they joined the Spanish's side to hunt down Jack to punish him. Now, how Jack and his crew was able to escape isn't very well known, but there was a letter from one of the crew members explaining what happened. And I definitely didn't just find a video online explaining the note.
Rackham and his men were at a town in Cuba, refitting their small sloop, when a Spanish warship, charged with patrolling the Cuban coast, entered the harbor, along with a small English sloop they had captured. The Spanish warship saw the pirates, but could not reach them at low tide. So they parked at the harbor entrance to wait for morning. That night, Rackham and his men rowed over to the captured English sloop and overpowered the Spanish guards. As dawn broke, the warship began blasting Rackham's old ship, now empty, as Rackham and his men silently sailed past in their new prize. Calico Jack outsmarted them again.
Anyway, after that escape, Jack and his men went back to Nassau so they could go see Governor Rogers, the guy with the pardon. Now, Jack knew that Rogers did not like Captain Vane, so he came up with a clever lie. He told the governor that Vane had forced them all into becoming pirates, and for some reason, he believed it. And then after that, the governor allowed them to accept the pardon and stay, even though they had just attacked a Jamaican ship. Yeah, communication really sucked back then. Now, during their stay, Jack had fell in love with a woman named Bonny. Yeah, her.
That's a woman?
Now you see, there was a problem. Anne was already married to a man named James Bonny, who worked for Governor Rogers. Now if it was me, I would have been like, bet, James, you can keep this literal dude. But what a coincidence, some tension had heated up between Anne and James. Basically what happened is when James had found out about the affair between them, he had went to Governor Rogers and pleaded for his wife to be punished. Her punishment? To be whipped. Publicly. For some reason. While this was happening, Jack tried to intervene and offer a large sum of money for their divorce. But Sadly, there was no peaceful solution. So, his solution was to return to piracy, when he and Anne then left the Bahamas in August of 1719. Now, if it was me personally, I would have definitely kept her from getting whipped. But I would not have been taking her with me, like, bro. Anyway, to get out of Nassau, they decided to steal a decently large ship called the William. And of course, on September 5th, Governor Rogers had found out about this and issued a warrant for Jack's arrest. Now, when I was doing research on this, I had found out that before they left, Jack had gotten a little bit too freaky with Anne. And lo and behold, she's pregnant. So she went to Cuba to have Jack's child, which some historians say is where she had left said child. Yeah, honestly, I don't really know what he sees in her. He's got pretty bad taste in women. Along with this, while she was there, she had met a woman named Mary Reed, an English woman who had spent most of her life as a pirate. And soon after, these women became some of the most ruthless women pirates at the sea, fighting alongside the men and taking no prisoners. In fact, these women were the ones that wanted to kill everybody. Gives me another reason to fear women. And finally, in 1720, the story began to end. A man named Captain Jonathan Barnett had cornered Jack and his men after exchanging cannon fire and left them vulnerable. Now, according to some historians, the men had hid below deck while Bonny and Reed was still up fighting. Then, straight after the fight, Jack and his men were sent to Jamaica for trial. They were quickly found guilty, then hanged in Port Royal on November 18th, 1720. Now, Bonny was reported to be able to see Jack one last time, and here's what she said to him. "I'm sorry to see you this way, but if you had fought like a man, you need not have hanged like a dog." Crazy enough, on their side, Bonny and Reed were spared from being hanged because they were both pregnant. Care to explain, Jack? Eventually, Reed did die in prison, but Anne, nobody really knows what happened to her. But we can all agree that we've learned something today from John Calico Jack Rackham. Boys, be careful out there. Women are terrifying.